back to the goal line stand. We are extremely happy to have you here and just really excited for this next video. We look to post weekly uploads about college-related news and just overall just content that I think you guys will like. I personally enjoy it, but today we'll get right into the video. We are talking about Joe Burrow and the impact he had on the transfer portal. Now, if you guys are living under the rock, the Cincinnati Bengals, going from one of the worst records in the 2020 season, are going to the Super Bowl next week, led by none other than Joe Burrow. Now, we want to focus in on Joe Burrow's collegiate career. Joe Burrow spent 3.5 years at Ohio State as a backup, then transferred and spent 2 years at LSU as a starter. Now, what I think this does, what the magnitude of this situation was, is that Joe Burrow is now the poster child for the transfer portal. He is the transfer portal quarterback gone right. And, we see all these big-time recruits go and enter the transfer portal. In specifics, we just saw Caleb Williams, Jackson Dart, Robbie Ashford, these guys who are quarterbacks who entered the transfer portal, Bo Nix a couple months ago. And, I think that's good for the sport, but, they're trying to be like one guy, and that one guy is Joe Burrow. In his 2 years at LSU, he had 2 winning records, 2 winning seasons, and in his second year, an undefeated record, Heisman Trophy, and a national championship. Granted, that team is stacked. We see most of that team in the NFL right now, if they aren't still on the LSU roster or preparing for the NFL draft right now. I think that LSU team is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in the college football playoff era, and one of the greatest of all times. They had so much depth at wide receiver. They had so much depth at cornerback and strong safety. You look at Derek Stingley, he's going to be coming into the league pretty soon, probably a high first-round pick. I think that's kind of what you look at the LSU team. But the line stops with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had an amazing season, quite possibly the greatest from a quarterback of all time in college football. So I think the questions that Joe Burrow situation brings up for quarterbacks is, if I am to leave, can my situation be better elsewhere? And yes, that is true, but also, can I be playing at that same high level? Now, this could be true for quarterbacks who play at big-time programs. Joe Burrow played at Ohio State. Ohio State is a premier program in college football. He went to LSU, they were on the rise at the time, but it's not like, that the SEC's been Alabama dominant for a long time. It's been, I guess, Auburn was up there too, Florida, Georgia, those big-time programs. LSU has been great, but they were kind of on a downward slope. After the firing of Les Miles, hiring of Ed Orgeron, they had to look to build that back up. And I think Joe Burrow, he kind of led that charge. So I think that's what you need to be looking for if you're a quarterback. Can I transfer and then my situation get better? And Joe Burrow's did. So that's one reason why he's a poster child. Another one is, who am I having as weapons? And, the transfer targets, they look to transfer to big-time schools, but it's also ones where they know that they can grow because the players around them. You look at Dylan Gabriel going from UCF, to Oklahoma this past year. And now he's got some studs at wide receiver because, Lincoln Riley did an amazing job at recruiting there. And, I think Brett Venables will do an amazing job with recruiting in the coming future. So I think Dylan Gabriel set up, and that's a good transfer for him. I think you look at Bo Nix. Oregon, they always tend to recruit very well. He's going to have some studs for him. I think that's another thing that you look for if you're a transfer quarterback. If you also have a solid running back, man, you're set up. Joe Burrow had all those things. He had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had Jamar Chase, which obviously that connection right now is insane. Justin Jefferson, Pro Bowler, and I'm blanking, Terrace Marshall. He was insane at LSU. So I think it's that. I mean, you got to have good targets, and that's why Joe Burrow he was successful at LSU because he had all those things. Ed Orgeron did an incredible job with recruiting. So I think the last thing is you have to be in a system where you can succeed. So it's a good situation, good players, and then a good system. Now, the offense was kind of built around Joe Burrow, built around the possibility for him to move around, but then also make those flashy plays. Joe Burrow broke the all-time passing yards record in 2019, and then also broke the touchdowns record. And he had that supporting staff, but that Joe Brady, an offensive coordinator, amazing job to help draw up those plays and, kind of find a way to utilize Joe Burrow. Now, what I'm talking about with this whole transfer portal poster child is everybody's going to strive to have similar situations to Joe Burrow. Now, we've seen a lot of transfers in the past 3, 4, 5 years. And, it's part of college football now. And there will be some regulations down the road. But I think all in all, you have to start to play into the hands of the transfer portal. And I think that's kind of what Ohio State tried to do this year. And no other team in the nation did this, is that you don't go after a transfer portal player, a player in the transfer portal. That was Elias Ricks, to avoid your other players from going into the transfer portal. So that was a unique case, but I think that's a case that you're going to start to see more often, because if you're a program trying to build off young players and a All-American comes in, wants to go to your school, the young players, the young core that you're trying to build might leave. So I think that's kind of what you're wanting to do. I think the transfer portal, all in all, is a good thing for college football. But, if you're going to transfer, you need to have something set in stone where you could target that. I know once you declare for the transfer portal, you're allowed to start to talk to people. And I think NIL also affects the transfer portal. These were my reasons why Joe Burrow is the poster child for the transfer portal, why people will want to go into the transfer portal to be like Joe Burrow, and we'll see what he does in Super Bowl 56.